What if your entire life changed because of a simple mistake? This is the story of a billionaire CEO, a struggling girl, and a phone swap that revealed a truth he never expected. Ethan Blackwood has everything. He is a self-made millionaire, the CEO of one of the most powerful tech companies in the country. His days are filled with luxury, high-stakes business deals, and a schedule planned down to the second. He lives in a penthouse overlooking the city, travels in private jets, and never has to worry about money. On the other side of the city, Sophie Carter is living a completely different reality. She works two jobs just to make ends meet. Her mother is sick, and medical bills keep piling up. Every day is a struggle to keep the lights on, to afford her next meal, and to hold on to the hope that things will get better. She carries an old phone, cracked and barely holding charge, her only connection to the world. One ordinary morning, their paths cross in the most unexpected way. Ethan is rushing into a busy café, taking an urgent call, barely looking where he's going. Sophie is leaving in a hurry, coffee in one hand, her phone in the other. In an instant, they collide. Their phones slip from their hands, clattering onto the floor. They both scramble to pick them up, apologizing quickly before heading in opposite directions, neither realizing that they've grabbed the wrong phone. Minutes later, Ethan steps into his private car. He glances at his phone, ready to check his emails. But the moment he unlocks it, confusion spreads across his face. The wallpaper isn't his. The apps aren't his. And the first notification he sees isn't about stocks or business deals. It's an overdue rent notice. Sophie, meanwhile, is on a crowded bus, exhausted from another long shift. She finally pulls out her phone to check messages. But instead of her usual texts and job applications, she sees emails from investors, meeting schedules, and a banking app with an obscene amount of money in the account. Her heart races. This phone belongs to someone important, someone powerful, and she has no idea what to do next. Ethan scrolls through the phone in disbelief. There are desperate job applications, countless rejection emails, and voice messages from a hospital about an overdue medical bill. His confusion deepens as he sees pictures in the gallery, photos of a small apartment, of a woman lying in a hospital bed, of handwritten lists of expenses with barely anything marked as paid. He frowns, trying to make sense of it. Whose life is this? Sophie, gripping Ethan's phone tightly, stares at the endless messages pouring in. High-profile clients, assistants confirming appointments, news articles about the company he runs. She recognizes his name from headlines: Ethan Blackwood, the tech billionaire, a man whose wealth is beyond imagination. And now she is holding his entire world in her hands. Panic sets in. What if he thinks she stole it? What if she gets in trouble? She needs to return it fast. Ethan, still staring at the unfamiliar screen, notices an incoming call. It's labeled Mom. Hesitating for just a second, he answers. A weak voice on the other end speaks. Sophie, sweetie, did you talk to the landlord? I don't want you stressing over the rent again. Ethan doesn't respond. The voice continues. I know things are hard, but we'll get through this. You always find a way. For the first time in years, Ethan is speechless. He hangs up, suddenly feeling something unfamiliar. Guilt? Pity? He doesn't know. But one thing is clear: whoever owns this phone is struggling in a way he has never experienced. Sophie, on the other hand, is desperately trying to call her own phone. No answer. She tries again. Nothing. She paces, debating whether to go to the police or try finding Ethan herself. Just as she's about to give up, her phone rings. Or rather, Ethan's phone. She hesitates before answering. A deep, authoritative voice speaks. Is this Sophie Carter? Her breath catches. Yes. And I think you have my phone. A pause, then, we need to meet. Ethan arrives at the meeting spot first, sitting in the back of a sleek black car. When Sophie finally appears, she looks nervous, clutching his phone as if afraid he might accuse her of something. She hands it over quickly. "I didn't touch anything, I swear." Ethan studies her for a moment before holding out her phone. "And this is yours." Relief washes over her as she takes it back. She's about to leave when he speaks again. "Your mother? She's sick." Sophie freezes. You listened to the messages?" "I did," he admits. "I also saw the hospital bills." Her face hardens. "It's none of your business." Ethan leans forward slightly. "What do you do for work?" She crosses her arms. "I waitress and clean offices at night and do some freelance work when I can." "3 jobs?" He raises an eyebrow. "And you still can't afford the medical bills?" She lets out a hollow laugh. "Welcome to the real world." For the first time, Ethan feels a strange sense of discomfort. His life has been one of luxury, power, and control. He spent years building an empire, making money at a rate most people can't even comprehend. Yet here stands a woman who works harder than anyone he knows, just to survive. He doesn't say anything for a long moment. Then finally he asks, "What would you do if you had more?" She frowns. "More what?" "More resources, more opportunities." She scoffs. "I don't have time to dream." Ethan studies her, then checks his watch. "Come with me." She takes a step back. "What?" "I want to show you something," he says. "It'll take 15 minutes. Sophie hesitates, but something in his expression tells her this isn't a joke. Against her better judgment, she follows him. They arrive at a towering skyscraper, Ethan's headquarters. Sophie has never set foot in a place like this before. She feels out of place as employees in suits rush past, barely glancing at her. Ethan leads her to an office with a breathtaking view of the city. He gestures for her to sit. "You're talented," he says. "You've been trying to get better jobs, but no one gives you a chance." She folds her arms. "Are you going to offer me some charity?" His lips twitch into a slight smirk. "I'm going to offer you a job." Sophie blinks. "You don't even know what I can do." "I know enough," he replies, "and I know potential when I see it." She stares at him skeptical. "And what's in it for you?" Ethan leans back. "Let's just say I've learned something today, and I want to see what happens when someone like you finally gets a real chance." She studies him, searching for any sign of deception. Finding none, she exhales slowly. Against all odds, this mistake, this accidental phone swap, might just change everything.
Sophie hesitates, her fingers tightening around her phone. She has spent her whole life working for every dollar, every opportunity, and suddenly this billionaire is offering her a job? It doesn't make sense. She shakes her head. "Why would you do this?" Ethan leans forward. "Because I see something in you, and because I realize today how different our worlds are." She scoffs. "And that suddenly makes you want to help?" Ethan doesn't respond right away. Instead, he unlocks his phone, scrolling through the pictures he saw earlier. "You know, I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who have everything: private jets, expensive watches, homes in 5 different countries." He looks up at her. "And yet, I've never seen anyone fight as hard as you." Sophie crosses her arms. "I don't need your pity." "It's not pity," Ethan says simply. "It's an opportunity. You have skills. You're resilient, resourceful. I'm offering you a chance to prove yourself. No handouts, no charity, just a real shot." She stares at him, her mind racing. This is crazy. Things like this don't happen to people like her. Rich men don't just hand over opportunities for no reason. And yet, he seems serious. "What's the catch?" she asks. Ethan smirks. "No catch. Just work hard. Show me I'm right about you." Sophie exhales, her heart pounding. She thinks of her mother, of the sleepless nights worrying about money, of the dead-end jobs that lead nowhere. She looks Ethan in the eye. "Fine, I'll do it." A week later, Sophie walks into Ethan's company as an intern. At first, she feels completely out of place. Everyone around her is polished, confident, moving through the office like they belong. She feels like an outsider. But then something shifts. She starts picking things up quickly, faster than anyone expected. She is determined, asking questions, staying late to learn more. She refuses to let this opportunity slip away. Ethan watches from a distance, impressed. She is different from anyone he has ever worked with, fearless, unshaken by challenges. She doesn't take anything for granted. One day he calls her into his office. "You've been here a month," he says. "What do you think?" Sophie sits down, choosing her words carefully. "I think it's nothing like what I expected, and I think I can do more." Ethan raises an eyebrow. "More?" She nods. "I've been studying the company, looking at how things work. I have ideas, ways to make things better." He leans back, intrigued. "Go on." She pulls out a small notebook, flipping through pages of notes she has taken. "Your company invests in startups, right? But you only focus on the ones that already have funding. What if you looked at smaller businesses? People with ideas but no access to investors?" Ethan listens, interested. No one else in his company has ever brought up something like this. "You think there's potential there?" he asks. "I know there is," Sophie says firmly. "People like me, we don't get chances, but that doesn't mean we don't have ideas, talent, or drive. You have the power to change that." Ethan studies her for a moment before nodding slowly. "Let's test it." Months pass, and Sophie's small idea turns into a real project. Ethan gives her the resources to launch a new initiative, helping small entrepreneurs who don't have access to investors. And it works. The program becomes a success, and soon, Sophie is more than just an intern. She becomes a key player in the company, proving to everyone, including Ethan, that she belongs there. One day, she gets a call from the hospital. Her mother's medical bills have been paid, every last cent. Sophie's breath catches. She knows exactly who did it. She storms into Ethan's office, slamming the door behind her. "You paid my mom's bills," she accuses. Ethan looks up from his desk. "Yes, I did." She clenches her fists. "I told you I didn't want charity." Ethan sighs, setting his pen down. "And it's not. Consider it an advance. When you're running this company one day, you can pay me back." Sophie opens her mouth to argue, but then she stops. "Running this company?" She shakes her head in disbelief. "You really think I could do that?" Ethan stands up, walking over to her. "I don't think," he says. "I know." Sophie stares at him, her walls finally breaking down. She exhales. "Thank you." Ethan gives her a rare smile. "Don't thank me yet. You still have a lot of work to do." Sophie laughs, shaking her head. "Yeah, I guess I do." A year passes, and everything has changed. Sophie is no longer an intern. She is a rising star in the company. The initiative she started has helped hundreds of small businesses get off the ground. And Ethan? He has changed, too. He sees the world differently now. He no longer measures success just in profits, but in the impact he can make. One morning, a news article circulates online. Millionaire CEO's life-changing mistake leads to an unbelievable transformation. It tells the story of the accidental phone swap that changed 2 lives forever. Ethan reads it and smirks. A mistake? Number it was fate. Sometimes the smallest accidents can lead to the biggest transformations. Would you have done the same if you switched lives for a day? Let us know in the comments.